So, something that's been bugging me for, a year now. Why is Jaws a horror movie? I know many can, and I'm sure would, argue that it just isn't. It's thriller or suspense. Our very own YouTube classifies it as action/adventure. But for once, I'm not so interested in issues of categorization, of forensically interrogating what genre conventions Jaws does or doesn't adhere to, but just that I've always thought of it as horror. And its marketing was certainly horror-centric.
If you forgot what terror is like, the original Jaws is back.
In my mind, it's one of the great classic horror films. But why? The reason I ask this question at all is because of Noel Carroll's book, The Philosophy of Horror, or actually an Idea Channel video about the 5 horror monster categories found therein. And actually it was a comment left on that video, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Idea Channel, which sadly ended 3 years ago and took with it a little piece of my soul, we all miss you and want you to come home. They outline Carroll's classifications. Fusion monsters, which are multiple things at once, so Frankenstein's monster, various animal people, zombies and ghosts are both living and dead, and maybe deathbed, the bed that eats, which is both animate and inanimate, or maybe inanimate that becomes animate, which would be the next category, fission, which is when one thing exists in more than one state, like werewolves or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or more than one place, like a doubling. Then magnification, which tends to take the things people are already afraid of and says, yeah, but what if it was like really big? Ugh, spiders! Ugh, rats! Ah, women! And then massification, which evokes the same response through volume rather than size. Ah, piranhas! Ah, birds! Why are there so many? And finally, horrific metonymy, when something just seems off. Slightly unusual behaviour, or appearance, or surroundings. Carroll uses Dracula as an example, citing accompanying vermin and that Dracula is described as sickening, though his appearance is not literally monstrous, as horrifically metonymic symptoms. But then there was this comment about some Bear movie. And I don't mean to call this person out, using relentlessly obscure media to make a point is honestly very relatable, but it got me thinking about a much more well-known example. There's a movie where a town is being stalked by a huge shark. It's called Jaws. The shark is very big, but not supernaturally big. It's not scary because of its surroundings, though it is scary to be alone in the ocean. It's just a huge shark who might eat the protagonists. Now, the shark is maybe unnaturally big, reportedly 25 feet. But with great white recorded at over 20 feet, it's, yeah, not supernaturally big. There's just one. It doesn't transform or exist in more than one place. It would make a pretty unimaginative fusion. Shark, with the head of a shark and the body of a shark. If we were reaching, and whenever we're categorizing there's always some amount of reaching, it could be considered horrific metonymy, being just slightly too big, a bit too close to shore, a bit too aggressive. Though again, such shark attacks aren't unheard of. The Jersey Shore shark attacks of 1916 are even referenced in the film. Of course, there are more types of horror. A lot of comments suggested the unknown as a missing category, but since here Carroll is only concerned with the depiction of horror monsters, the unknown is more its own thing. But is Jaws not a monster movie? A creature feature? Maybe that's why Jaws doesn't quite fit here. Like, it's only masquerading as a monster movie. If horror monsters are all about depiction, how much depicting does Jaws actually do? It's maybe as famous for its lack of shark as much as it is the shark itself, overshadowed as it is by stories of technical disaster.
The shark was frustrating. It didn't really work all the time. It didn't work hardly at all.
Production was defined by broken animatronics, ocean-based mishaps, and a whole lot of waiting. But then the film itself has a lot to do with waiting. Waiting to see. The frustration of not being able to see. We're waiting not only to see the shark, this feat of technical engineering, but for the thing we know is going to happen. And Jaws seems to taunt us with the idea that tragedy will always strike the moment you're not looking. Next to categorization, perhaps the thing horror deals with the most is the unknown. what we can't quite see, what lies beneath the surface, if you will. And thanks to the fact that animatronics tend not to do so great in the ocean, we hardly see the shark. And when we do, it's usually obscured enough, far away enough, or fast cut enough that I can still just about wonder if I saw anything at all. Like, the water impedes my ability to distinguish real and imagined. Or maybe it's both, a kind of Schrodinger's ocean where the danger is both real and not, until the moment it breaches the surface and we can see if it's a shark or just a toy fin. Even the shark's appearance and disappearance are characterized by a kind of incorporeality, first confirmed in name only and last seen exploding, not exactly the stuffed trophy Quint was hoping for. The shark, then, is presented as this great immaterial force, one we can fight, maybe even defeat, but never harness, never really have power over, even just the power of the gaze, just being able to see it. Emily Dickinson often drew a parallel between sight and power. The poem Before I Got My Eye Put Out speaks of looking upon something as a form of ownership. The meadows, mine. The mountains, mine. And if we look at Spielberg's other famous monster movie, we can see this other side of the coin. The threat in Jurassic Park, while also animal, is technically man-made. In fact, the man-madeness is kind of the whole point. And it's all about look. Amazing! Where, just as the characters marveled at these creatures, audiences marveled at these special effects. Those lingering shots of fully exposed creations they were denied in Jaws. Scandalous. And it's a lot about power. The power of man to create monster and to be ultimately undone by it, but also the power of man to create monster and to not be undone at all. The dinosaurs may have destroyed the park, but the creation of the film, this technical creation of creatures you can still believe today, that power is still going strong. Unlike Spielberg's earlier toy Finn, which refused to cooperate, to ever be truly under human control. And that's a concept that conveys the fear of nature, of the animal, more than seeing a perfectly choreographed special effect ever could. Film critic Antonia Quirk wrote in the BFI Modern Classics book on Jaws how strong the longing to see a monster and believe the bloody thing. And that with Jurassic Park, finally he had made credibility no longer an issue in the world of beasts. And what a waste of his talent. What a fool's errand, tagging along after reality. So we finally got to see, and all we could say was, well done. Bit harsh, but it raises the question of seeing and believing. Whether seeing is believing, or maybe sometimes believing is seeing? If, as Quirk continues, fiction saves its greatest rewards for any act of faith in a witness. If you were looking to prove the seeing is believing hypothesis, Jurassic Park would be an excellent Exhibit A. Like, I know the Velociraptor was really about turkey-sized and covered in feathers, but it doesn't stop me picturing this when I imagine them. This is what I saw, so this is what I believe, even when I know better. Dinosaurs have long been the subject of smoke and mirrors, and they know the importance of branding. But didn't Jaws have the same kind of cultural impact? Sure, because of Jurassic Park, when we think of this, we imagine this, but because of Jaws, when we think of this, we imagine this, and we suddenly believe in something we can't see at all. Commenting on Jaws at the end of the experimental film Stand By for Tape Backup, Ross Sutherland suggests that this is what it really means to believe.
Jaws became believable the minute they got rid of the shark, and that's the thing that I try and take from this picture. If you really want to believe in something, stop looking at it.
And maybe this is what elevates the shark from animal to monster. Because, as writer Ray Gruhl points out, the universal truth about monsters is that they don't exist. This tracks with how the film was academically received, as despite Spielberg's description of it as a film about a shark, film critic Mark Kermode instead introduced it as not about a shark. Well, it appears we have some disagreement. In fact, the shark has been cast as a manifestation of many an abstract concept, from Watergate to Latin masculinity to patriarchy, And the 40th anniversary symposium included such titles as Jaws and Ecofeminism and Jaws, the case of the archetypal American villain as queer dissident attacking the heteronormative, and the fact that neither of these made it into the subsequent publication feels like a personal attack. The thing about Jaws is that it's open to so many interpretations, says conference convener Ian Hunter. It can be about Watergate or the bomb or masculinity or whatever. And isn't this the real hallmark of horror? Endless speculation and obsessive theorizing? Very little of which would have ever been intentional in this film about a shark, but as Antonia Quirk put it, Jaws is an intriguing allegory precisely because it had no agenda. Unlike the book, which hints at the shark being some sort of retribution for sin, Spielberg's shark just wants to eat you. But what does that represent, Stephen? Really, a shark terrorizing an island community draws inevitable comparison with any outside force threatening an established way of life. What that way is and whether or not it should be threatened is what remains a matter of perspective. The only constant is that the threat be indiscriminate, as Spielberg rejects the idea of chosen victims and insists it just wants to eat you. Anybody. Everybody.
It ate everybody.
What about Erica?
It ate everybody, stupid!
Only it actually didn't eat everybody, and there are definitely essays to be written about who it does and doesn't eat, but I think Spielberg is right in that our fear is that it will eat everybody. Anybody. Us. At the time of its release, it makes sense that this fear would have been born of nuclear war or distrust in the government, being newly post-Watergate and continuingly mid-Cold War. But these days, new threats have, well, I was going to say taken their place, but it's more that distrust in the government and threat of nuclear war have become the background noise of all of our lives. So there are just more threats to choose from. And long-time viewers won't be surprised to hear my favourite. Though, I mean, these others are like its sidecars. Forget about the 7 Cs, it's the 3 Cs. The idea of nature fighting back against what we did would have been an easy parallel to draw even at the film's release. And the shark, as an animal who has to be constantly moving forward to survive, becomes a suitable vessel for capitalism's destructive, single-minded progress. And the UK's 2020 COVID lockdown ending on the 4th of July makes this scene all the more timely.
For Christ's sake, tomorrow's the 4th of July, and we will be open for business.
I'm far from the first person to suggest that maybe the real monsters were the capitalists we made along the way, the mayor refusing to take action in the way so many of us continue to not take action against the threats we can't see. When it comes to the invisible, it's funny that horror is so effective at making us believe in things that aren't there, when we're often still so hesitant to really believe in the things that we know are. I guess it's fitting here that we refer to something vast and incomprehensible as a sea, if a little ironic considering its homophonous sibling. Though the phrase "avoid it like the plague," we might have to retire that one.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution.
There's an emphasis in Jaws on the shark as primordial, something that was here before us and may well be here after us. And maybe what's scary about Jaws has just been that simple all along, just fearing the end of our own existence. Not just death, but our insignificance. Just food for a beast, swallowed whole, consumed, and nothing to show for it. As mythical as an invisible shark. For me, the scariest image of Jaws doesn't come from the film. It's this set photo of a deleted scene. It's like, that moment, that's the whole of existence, right there. That split second when you're here, before you're gone. But the film is far from nihilistic, refusing to ever take itself too seriously. After all, it is a film about a shark. While characters talk about how hard it is for one person to make a difference, and it appears so easy to lose yourself in the crowd, which is maybe the real massification monster, the film seems to remain optimistic. Its final words urging us to believe in one more thing we can't always see. The impact of our actions. To believe we can change things, and for the better. The tide's with us. Keep kicking. And personally, there's only really 2 contexts in which I hear the word Jaws. The first is, have you seen the movie Jaws? It's really good. But the second is metaphorical. The jaws of defeat. A phrase most often used when failure seemed certain, but it wasn't. Not quite. Success somehow still just within reach. as long as we don't keep repeating the same mistakes, because those unseen threats are still out there. Not sharks, of course, who mostly wish us no harm and sack their 70s PR team to rebrand as the good big chunkies they always were, but, you know, everything the shark can stand in for. And the subsequent films in this franchise act as a helpful reminder that we haven't snatched victory yet. There's a whole ocean out there. Why would you think there's only one shark?
Oh, Jaws, you swam away with my heart. Oh, Jaws, you tore my whole world apart. Oh, Jaws,
come back with my heart.